Everyone loves a big payday, but loving a payroll provider, that's a little bit weird. Yet all across the country, business owners are loving doing payroll with Gusto. Gusto is easy, simple to use, plus it does all your W-2s, which is huge, so they never have to be late again. That has happened to me once before. And they even have HR support that's a phone call away, which I also know small business owners need times a million. It's modern, easy, typically only takes about 11 minutes to actually run payroll, so it's efficient also. Plus, they're giving you a 3-month free trial as soon as you run your first payroll with them. So just go to gusto.com/EM so you can experience it for yourself.
Potent advice and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Hey, it's Jaime, and welcome to a selects edition of Eventual Millionaire. This is where we go back and find the best of the best, the ones that you loved from the past 6-7 years. We've been doing this a long time, and there's some amazing interviews with amazing guests that you have not seen yet. So we are bringing them back. It is the selects edition. Let us know what you think, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jaime Masters, and today on the show we have Shawn Reynolds. Now he's from Canada, so you can check him out at brothersbros.ca. And when you check him out, that's one piece of what he does. But he is a ridiculously amazing serial entrepreneur, producer, actor, all sorts of things. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
I was looking through the list of the things that you do, from tech to, gutters to none of it sort of makes sense when you put it all together. So you tell me, how the heck did you get in so many different industries?
I have a million ideas. I want to do a million things. When I was a kid, I was quite the salesperson. I was selling hockey pools door to door when I was about 10 years old. And I was doing ski trips when I was about 14 or 15, getting free ski trips. And by the time I was 19, I had a 4-plex apartment building. I was a landlord. So I always had that in me. And I had a creative side and was an actor. I was doing commercials. I was doing plays. I was doing movies. Some of them great, some of them not so great. And it sort of just amalgamated. I became an actor, but I was always running my own business on the side because, as an actor, you're just waiting for somebody else to give you an opportunity. And I don't like that. I like sort of being, moving the chess pieces and not being the chess piece, if you will.
Yes, I just painted a picture that says that exact same thing. So how do you deal with that, though? Because it's one thing to have ideas. You're like, oh, I have a lot of ideas. No offense, but a lot of people listening have a lot of ideas also. Taking action, actually creating companies that are actually successful, very different thing. So how have you actually aligned that to be able to get these things done?
I guess you have to have, a chutzpah to it, and you don't want to just, I'm always afraid this amazing idea I have, somebody else is going to come up with it or somebody else is going to jump on it. And I guess there's a fear behind that, which is, a good thing. It makes it so you fight for that next sale when I was an actor, I worked my butt off to get that audition and be prepared with that accent. So fear can be a really great motivator. I know people think of it in a negative sense, but I think that it's, it keeps you moving in the right direction. And I've always been really collaborative. I come up with a great idea and it's not like I'm trying to hoard it to myself. I've always said, okay, this is going to be I'm a real connector. So I'm like, this person would be really great for this, or I should bring in this person. And I like working with people. So those days where maybe you feel like, you know what, I don't have it in me today. It's really interesting. I'm working on producing a movie right now. It's just at the creative stages, and my collaborating partner just sent me a text saying, you know what, full disclosure, I don't have it in me today. We got together, and I'd send a text back saying, hey, we're going to do this. We got some stuff to do. And it ended up being one of the best meetings we had. We got things in order, and it's, we went in there with nothing, and we're just trying to get the show Bible together right now. And so, again, you could have gone in with fear and said, I'm not going to be able to do anything. This is going to be a waste of a meeting, and it being the best thing we could have done.
So how do you not spread yourself too thin with this, just in general? Because especially other partners and issues, right? There's so many things, and then you're wide instead of deep, and you're not successful, quote unquote.
I totally agree with you on that. that is a challenge for me because I end up taking on too many projects. And instead of doing three things or two things really well, you start diluting it. You're not putting the real attention on what you have. And so it's reevaluating what's most important, what you're most passionate about, maybe what you're going to get the most dividends out of, um, and having to maybe put something on a shelf. Because sometimes timing is the right thing, like you look at a company like Apple, which Steve Jobs, it was a timing issue at different times for them to bring that together. And so with you have to look at the financial environment, what people are looking for, and maybe what's pushing you forward. Sometimes you need that creative piece that maybe isn't going to give you any financial dividends, but it's going to keep you motivated to do these other things. But I totally agree. Working on too many things, why do five things terribly when you can do two things really well?
I love that the serial entrepreneur in all bazillion niches says that. Okay, thank you. But how do
Yeah.
you make those decisions for your? Do you go after one piece? Because I actually want to loop in what we were talking about before, which was burnout. Because you also have an issue that flares up that causes you to be in the hospital. So how do we mitigate how much work we're pushing ourselves to do? Because this fear is pushing us, and dealing with not burning yourself out and taking the path slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, I've got a great wife who keeps me on the straight and narrow.
So we all need great wives? Darn it. No.
Yeah, good people around you. I have a board of advisors around me. One is a former Dragon's Den, which is a Shark Tank. You guys do the Shark Tank.
Yes.
Two of our former Shark Tank people are now on the Dragon's Den, Robert Hershevich and Mr.
Oh, you
O'Leary.
didn't even know that. No. Oh, geez, I
Yeah.
didn't even know.
And I know both those guys from my, just being around, the industry here, really great guys. So I've got great people around me. A board of advisors has sort of helped me make those decisions because sometimes when you're in it, it's almost being like in a forest of trees and you really don't know which direction. But people, it's easier to give advice than it is to take advice, and to have people who can see you and go, Shawn, I think maybe you should cut back on this, or maybe put a little more focus on this, put this on the shelf and then come back to it. So I'm always open to other people's advice. It doesn't mean I take every piece of advice, but I want to have the information. And if somebody can see something that I'm maybe not seeing from my vantage point, tell me about it. My ego's got to take a back shelf to things,
Well, how do you know then if it's true for you or not? So they give you advice. You said you take it or you don't take it. How do you make that decision?
Well, so this TV show idea that I want to do, I had just sold my company a year ago. I owned a large sports academy, Nike Sports Camps, acquired that. I had to stick around for a year as part of the acquisition. And that just ended literally like 2 months ago. And my wife is like, this is great. You can focus on the construction company. It's a family construction company. Like really, sink your teeth into it. And this TV show idea it's just been percolating, just bubbling up. And I can't get away from this idea. I'm like, if I'm driving around and I'm waking up and I'm writing down ideas, and I'm doing it despite the fact not wanting to do it because I'm so excited by it. So my wife thought it was not a great idea because she thought I should really take a break and recharge the battery a bit. And so instead of doing this as a full-on producing every single day, we're meeting a couple times a week. So I'm taking it on as a hobby, but it doesn't mean I can't be driving to meetings. It doesn't mean I can't be, going to play tennis or jog or whatever and not be thinking about this thing and moving it. I think of it like, you're on the football field, you're moving the ball down the field, and that's what I'm doing with this. And you alluded to it a couple minutes ago. I have Crohn's disease. So it's an autoimmune disease. If I get stressed out, if I don't sleep, if I put too much on my plate, I end up with a flare, which is it's like swallowing glass. When I try to eat, it's really painful. And, you want to be effective as a business owner and entrepreneur, and it makes it a real challenge, And so 2.5 years ago, I had surgery. They had to cut out 2.5 feet of my bowel. Is down to 122 pounds. And I'm not I'm a 150 pound guy. Like you're trying to be effective. I've run my business from a hospital bed, signing checks, and nurses have come in saying, hey, off your phone, enough of this kind of thing,
Yeah,
So
that seems bad.
yeah. And part of that is because I push myself too hard. So you have to be self-aware and say, you know what, I'm feeling not feeling great. When that surgery happened, that was my second surgery 2.5 years ago. I just had our first child. So 3 weeks after he was born, I went in for surgery. I had a business which was having, like, we were, you go through ebbs and flows. It was a challenge time. And so I started doing mindfulness meditation. I think that's made me a better entrepreneur. It's made me a better person. I'm less reactive, which is part of being an actor. When I used to really focus on that, like going off your gut, right? So it's got me being more aware. I changed my diet dramatically, really got off sugar and gluten, and I know what I'm eating almost every day. I start off with a great smoothie and have one of those amazing blenders, and because if I don't take care of me, the whole thing falls apart, right?
Well, that's what we're told. And what's so tough, though, is that not that your disease is an asset in any way, but the fact that it is so prevalent makes you have to pay attention. Where instead, other entrepreneurs will just run themselves to the ground and then end up in a hospital and be like, oh, I had no idea, completely clueless, that I was running myself into the ground. And so how do we stop ourselves before we get to that point? Does that make sense? So especially if it's not a physical sensation, oh my gosh, I'm doing too much, I now feel stress and now it feels like class, you would notice that. But other people don't even notice the stress that just piles on and piles on and piles on until it's too late, quote unquote.
Yeah. The thing you need to be doing, you have to really be like keeping track. Like, am I getting 7 hours a night sleep? Am I actually what am I eating? Like I use this great app called Evernote. So I'm a list guy. I have tons and tons of lists. So I keep lists on how I'm feeling, like how's the sleep going, how this is going. I'm not perfect at it, but at least I've got that as a barometer. And I started doing this thing probably about 1.5 years ago. I started using the Eisenhower Matrix. Are you aware of that?
No, tell me more.
So your Eisenhower, who's obviously a famous American, they say he's one of the most productive guys out there. He had this matrix. So you put it into 4 different quadrants.
Maybe I can important urgent thing or no?
Right, exactly.
I know it was his. Oh.
And so important, but urgent. Important, not urgent.
Okay, can you give me an example? Because this is the thing. I think most, and I could be wrong, so we can definitely explain it in case people don't understand what it is, because I didn't know the name of it for sure. But give me an example of something you do, because we've heard of this, or a lot of people have heard of this, but don't actually do it. Very different when you actually do it.
Yeah. So for me, my lists were this long. Like I'd have a list and it continued going, and then you don't know the top of the list from the bottom of the list and what's important. And for me, as an entrepreneur, every day you have to get up and you have to be your own boss and go, okay, Shawn, what are you going to do to make your company move forward, make you move forward, like all these things, right? So I have a personal Eisenhower Matrix, and I have one for business. And I look at each one in the morning, and I look at it, and that really gets me focused on what's the most important thing that you need to do from a personal standpoint and from a business standpoint. And so in the important, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring this up right now.
I know, I was going to say, I want to see it or a template or something so people can
right now. So, and I can talk about real world items that, so.
Please, thank you. Pull back the curtain of actually what happens.
So important and urgent. We're using a new CRM for our construction company. So the QuickBooks transition to move all of our clients over, we wanted to get this done for Labor Day, and we're moving into this. This has to go over right now. That's a very important item. We have a big home show coming up. That's an important and urgent. For this show I'm working on, although it's a hobby, we want to get the character breakdown for each of the characters that we want to include in the show Bible. That's the show Bible, just sort of breaks down what the show is going to look like, the characters involved, all the episodes. So if we go into the next quadrant, which is important but not urgent. So this is where I can decide when I want to do it. But it's important. Like, we need new credit cards for all of our new employees, right? Right now we're passing them around amongst employees, and we've got debit cards and all that sort of thing. But that has to happen. It's unprofessional. People are having to bill things that they shouldn't have to bill and taking their eye off the ball. Important, but if that waits another week and a half, 2 weeks, not a huge deal, right? And then There's some things that I'm trying to learn as well, some new things to make me better at what I want to do. Those important, but if this takes me 3 weeks, 4 weeks to do that, it's going to get to it, and I'm going to, you see it every day, and you look at it and you go, okay, Shawn, maybe this is time to move this up into the new quadrant, or else it just sits there, it becomes stale, right?
How do you look at all this? And how do you pick? So do you start with a brand new one each day, and then you write it in, or you just have yours? Oh, it's the same.
And I can send it out to you folks, but
yeah.
I go under here, and hopefully this can be seen. I go important, urgent, like let's do this, right? And I scroll down, look at this list. It's a pretty
okay. So that's the thing. Every day you're looking at the craziness. Okay.
But the great thing is too, I put little check marks beside each, so it feels great to feel that I have to find a way so that the check mark ones go to the bottom, right? Then I can be like, I want to feel like at the end of the week, I've gotten stuff done. And it's not just a list I have to do. Like, from a mental and a positivity standpoint, like, hey, Shawn, you did some great stuff. I keep talking about myself in the third person.
I love it. I do that with my children. It's hilarious.
So then you go important, not urgent, decide when I'm going to schedule that. So I move that down. And then we go down to not important, but urgent. That's maybe something you can delegate to an assistant and an employee. And so I look under here, our AdWords account. There's a new keyword thing that I read about that I thought would be really great to make us more effective. I want that enacted. Again, not super urgent. And this is something I don't need to do. I can tell the person to say, listen, here's this article, read up on this, get on the phone with the advisor from AdWords. Let's get this done.
Is it like a brain dump for your entire list though? Because that's the other thing. That's a big list, right? So you don't use like a project management software or anything like that?
No, I tend to use this right now. And the thing is, the one thing I need to do is you're seeing a lot of check boxes on there. So I'm getting stuff done, and I have to move those down, like cut and paste, or maybe use something, but move them down because I want to be able to see like a month from now, like where I'm at and see what I've gotten done. And eventually you're moving that maybe into the like, hey, this is what I've accomplished for the month of September list. And the last list, which is the funniest list, is not important, not urgent. Delete it. If it's not important, it's not urgent, that's not really on your list.
Give me some examples of that too, because nobody wants to delete anything from their list ever. They like put things on and they never take them off.
I delete it, but
darn,
maybe people are always asking you to come and speak at things, and sometimes those things you have to say no to, and it's a not important, not urgent, because there's 10,000 things ahead of you. So you just write back to them to say, hey, folks, not this September, but can we look at this for January? So it's you can have that on there, and it can be something you look back to. But this is now in their court to reach back to me on, right? When people play tennis email with you and they've emailed you and you email them back, and it's now in their court, and that's because some people use that as their list.
Yep. That's why we have Boomerang nowadays. Oh, I don't want to see this right now. Go away.
So it's just like, I'm throwing this back to you. I don't even want to think about it. Well, I can put that on my not important, not urgent list, as opposed to, leaving it in their court, because, you want to be polite with people's time. And there's people out there that are just getting started, and they're people that were so, so helpful to me. I stood on the shoulders of so many other people to get to where I am today. And you want to be respectful of that. I think karma is a really important thing in life and in business,
Oh, that's really cool. Especially everybody listening is like, ooh, let me ask him for advice. He's going to give back. Well, we get questions about this all the time, though, because you have a board of advisors and people are like, oh, well, who would want to mentor me? I'm a nobody or whatever. It's hard to have them ask. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you can ask a girl out, ask a partner out, if you take the first no, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Like, the first no means, hey, maybe I ask at a different time. Like, people reach out to me, and sometimes it's like, it was Labor Day long weekend. If you were reaching out to me, we were at the cottage, we were doing that. I had my little 2-year-old, my wife. This is not the time to reach out to me around that time. And people that I want to get advice for that are on my board of advisors, I had a couple of questions. I'm like, I'm not hitting them up now, because this is not going to get an answer. And if it is, it's not going to be the real great answer that I want. So, don't be afraid to ask more than once. And I'll tell you, one of the guys on my board of advisors who was on the Dragon's Den, I kept trying to meet this person. I wanted to meet with him. He's not in Toronto. He kept saying, very politely. This guy would get back to me within 5 minutes. He owns so many businesses. I don't know how he does it. So much respect. But said, Shawn, I get about 15 requests a day to speak at universities and colleges and people and all this. And I said, listen, it's the fall. I will come and clean out your garage. I will rake leaves. Do you need to do at your house right now? Let me come and help you so that we'll just talk while you do what you need to do. And he said yes at that point.
How long ago was that? Like when was that? How long?
That was probably about 2.5 years ago.
So you were really successful already, and you're like, I'm going to go rake your leaves. That's amazing.
But if somebody said to me, Shawn, listen, we got a ton of toys in the basement. I got to get that cleaned out. And, it's nobody else can do it but me, right? There's those things an assistant can't do that. If somebody said, hey, listen, let me come and help you. I'd rather sit and chat with somebody. I'm a people person. I want to talk to people. Who doesn't want to have somebody else come and move some boxes or help them rake leaves is kind of boring.
That's genius, though. So this is the funny thing is that having that little different spin on it makes all the difference in the world. Instead of giving the value first, technically, right? Yeah. Oh, let me help you. Actually got amazing human beings even after you've already been successful. That's so.
I'll tell you another great story, another example, Jaime. So I was in Jamaica, and a friend of mine has this amazing villa. JFK had his honeymoon there. Paul McCartney spends his time there, and Ralph Lauren is there all the time. And I grew up, it was the saddest thing. I thought it was pretty cool, and I was like, it'd be really great to meet this guy. And he is, out of all the people that are there, wants his own time. He doesn't want to really be bothered. He's there to relax, right? And I noticed his wife always sort of in the ocean and I thought, instead of going to the horse's mouth, you maybe go on a different direction.
You hit on the what? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
In the ocean, I started chatting. Her son was a movie producer. Next thing you know, she said, come back to our villa, and we'd love for you to, to meet our son. And it wasn't disingenuous. We had a great conversation, which made her want to chat with me. And we ended up having a great conversation. And her son and I ended up exchanging numbers. And it was pretty surreal to sit and, have a sangria with Ralph Lauren, so there's more than one way to skin a cat,
Thank you so much for saying that too, because that's the other thing. I think people assume, well, it's going to be that push away. It's the whatever it is. They're human beings, and if you strike up a conversation, whether when it led to anything and or not, because I'm sure you do this all the time, and sometimes it doesn't lead to things, and that's okay too.
And I know I might just be busy today. I had a rough day. I had a fight with my partner, whatever. And, reach back to them in 3 more weeks and say something interesting in that email. Hey, I read this great article that might interest you. Come to the table with something as opposed to just being somebody who's just asking for something. What are you bringing to the table? Read up on this person. Find out what their issue. The person from the Dragon's Den loves tennis. I was a tennis pro. I started tennis academies. I started sports academies. One of my things was, let me bring you out for a lesson. I get free tickets to the tennis open here. Come to the table with something,
So it's easy for you to say you have 1,000 different things. I'm a movie producer. I do tennis. Oh, wait, right? It's kind of insane to see the difference of all the stuff that you do. You have connection points with everybody, apparently in some way or another, right? We were just talking, you're like, your hair and makeup, blah, blah. Then we started talking down that path. It's crazy the way you do that. Is that innate for you? Are you just automatically good with people in general, or is this a learned skill?
I love chatting with people. Before we started this, I could have talked to you for another hour because I don't know. I find people really interesting. I'm sure this is why you're here doing this. I love getting to know, how did you get from point A to point B? I'll talk with the checkout lady at the grocery store, and I'm just like, what's going on in your day? What's the most interesting customer that ever came into your checkout line? What's the funniest combination? And I don't know. I think everybody has something to bring to the table. And if you're a curious person, what do people want to talk about? They want to talk about themselves. I love the fact that I'm here chatting with you today. The fact that you want to hear about me and what I've done. Everybody, the most successful person, Obama, Trump, I don't care, Ralph Lauren, they want to chat about themselves in some capacity or something that they want to talk about. People want to be heard.
That's such a good point. And that's the thing, they're just humans. That's one of the reasons why I have the
Yeah.
show. Because beforehand, again, small town girl, I'm from Maine, right? So cold,
Yeah.
cold, just like Canada. And I used to put everybody on a pedestal and be like, well, I mean, God, they're human beings, and human beings usually, unless they're super, super crazy introverted, like interaction in
Oh
general.
yeah.
Okay, and
And
you're
the thing
using that
about
to your
you, Jamie,
advantage.
is that your as your apples. Remember, these guys are having some of the same problems you are having. They might have more people, but I've been inside some of these businesses. I know people inside these businesses. They have they have big problems, the same as yourself and your audience on a larger scale. And they have, think of it like a cruise ship. They're trying to move this cruise ship and it's moving so incrementally, right? We're a speedboat and we can make these turns much more quickly. So don't think that they have they might have a larger bank account but they've got big problems, and we have a lot of things at our disposal and things we can do that make us at times in a better position to be successful.
So I love that this took this turn because we weren't going to talk about mentors in any way before when we were talking about stuff. But because you've built so many different types of companies, what would you suggest for people that are in the first like 2 years in business to really try and develop it? Because you're right, there's these ups and downs and things, and they're trying to hold it all together, but
Yeah.
not having the skill set. So of course, getting a mentor, really, really important. But what would you suggest, especially on the business development side of things, to try and handle it all and not over stress? And I know it's a general question, but that's why I want you to tell me what you think.
You know, I think it's important to set goals for yourself. I'm a list guy, like I said, but like the day to day can catch up to you. You know, emails and phone calls and all those things is that moving your business forward today?
Right.
Is that email back to that person? And before you're doing things, creating that list and going, these three things are paramount to me moving forward. Me getting on the horn with this person because they're going to help me move my business forward is important. So creating a list and having, you know, you can go through that forest, coming back to the forest analogy, right? And as long as you know you're moving north, you might have to move east and west along the way, but you're still moving that direction. And you may have to change course and change your game plan, right? But if you go, okay, by the end of this, my sports academy company, it started off with me and 6 kids on a tennis court 10, 12 years ago. Okay. And by the end, we had pushing 2,000 kids, 50 instructors, 5 locations, 30 after 4 programs. And then Nike Sports Campus comes in, and we turned that into 70 locations across Canada. And now they're a huge company, obviously. But, the thing is, like, I start off going, hey, I want to turn this from 6 kids. I want to make this 25 kids. I want to make this a camp. So you can have that big thing as I want to be the next Apple, the next Google. That's great. That's looking at you in a planetary point of view, but let's get back to the forest again. Like, you want to get to the end of this forest. Let's get out of this forest, right? And that might be, I want to start a camp. I want to make it so that I can stop working my full-time job in 6 months, in a year. So have that goal, and your goal may not be money. Like, for me, money isn't the end all be all. If I can find a balance between creating, let's say, film and TV projects, running my businesses, running my business with my family, I found so redeeming because it's a collaborative, and spending, like, I'll make less money to be able to spend time with my son, spend time with my wife. I don't know. I want to have a ton of money in the bank, but people have to understand what it takes to get there. It could mean a divorce. It could mean not getting to know your kids. It could mean putting yourself in the hospital to do that. And I'm not saying that has to happen, but if you have to give your all if you want to be one of the best. And I want to be really great. I don't know if I want to give up everything for that. I don't know if I can
Life
say
first. Yes. No. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So to me, did you know that? Like, so when we're looking at, I'm not going to call it balance, right? Because what you're doing sounds actually pretty gosh darn impressive. The fact that you can prioritize those pieces, especially without all the different things that you have going on. Mm-hmm. But did you, especially when you first started with 6 kids, did you vision, or did you really project, like, I could see this being huge and I want to sell it one day? Or was it always incremental?
And I'm going to be honest about this. You know what? It was myself and 6 kids on a court. I was a waiter and actor at the time. Okay. So I was in the big city of Toronto. I'm from a small town, a little mining town up north called Sudbury, and didn't have a ton of money in the account, and sort of was doing that, and it started growing and it started growing. And I didn't have a thing of thinking this is going to be great. I was going to be the next Ed Norton, next Tom Cruise. That was what was going to happen. And it started growing and it started growing. And the other side of the coin was growing. And I just saw I didn't have to be a waiter anymore because this started growing. And then I had people working for me. I had instructors working for me, and I didn't have to be there. I could manage them from my pocket, from my phone, right? And so, I don't know, I kind of had to have some success for that to come about. That being said, I'm a hard worker, and I feel like a really lucky person, but I've always worked really hard to get lucky. And here's one thing I'll tell you. I had one of my locations shut down our lease for us to run one of our tennis locations there, and it was the end of the world. It was a big door closing on me, but it couldn't have been it was the best thing that ever happened. I got in with a private school, which led to all these other private schools, which led Nike wouldn't have happened if that hadn't happened. Huh. And, now when something bad happens from a business standpoint, I go, what's the silver lining in this? Because the things that were the worst things that could have happened end up being the best things that could have happened. Who would have thought?
Well, what's so crazy, though, is it's easy to see when you look in hindsight, and it's so hard when you're in that forest and going, this sucks, right? Maybe when I'm out, I can look back and be like, oh, that was a beautiful forest. But now you're like, right? How do you bring that into your crisis or whatever mode you are in now?
I had to have it happen a couple times for me to go, okay, this might be a good thing. So I had to learn from example, I suppose.
A little stubborn, hard-headed entrepreneurs got to get slapped around a few times, right?
And then I had my brothers around me when I was really down and out. I had my advisors around me. I had people where I'm like, oh my God, I have to go in for surgery and I'm having challenges for my business and this is happening. And, there are times where I was like, I'm in a hospital, like I was having trouble walking upstairs. I was going to have to come and take care of my little, like I couldn't pick up my little one for the first 6 months after surgery because of the, they cut out my gut and stuff like that. And so I was coming back home to run a business, to have a newborn, to do all these things. And I was afraid, like I was really scared. And my brother showed up one day at the hospital and he said, okay, let's walk these stairs. Let's see that you can, cause we have a 2-story and can I do that? And he's like, yeah. And like, I was on a morphine trip and that can really play with your emotions. I was like, I was crying in the hospital, just feeling like I can't take care of me. How do I take care of a newborn with my wife? So I'm trying to be as honest as possible, of the things that people go through,
And what's so funny is that we are such resilient human beings. And you're telling this story, and I have extra bones in my body, which is interesting. I'm a mutant, and I had one removed, and I couldn't walk for a very long period of time, and was on crutches and was crawling upstairs and had small children also, which sucks, and business and everything else. Yeah, and so you're like. And what I see with entrepreneurs, especially with clients of mine, they're like, well, I'm going to do everything now. So I'm going to, even when I moved to Austin, I launched my book the same month, got a divorce the same month. We're still friends, don't worry, all is well. And moved, across the country in the same, because that's smart. But I see entrepreneurs doing this, right? And going, and then we pile up. And when you pile that much stuff up, no human being can handle this stuff. And then we look at ourselves and go, how come I couldn't handle it? Like, because nobody can, right? No matter how resilient, thankfully we can come back from it. But those crisis points really matter.
Well, speaking of that, I think back to, I was a waiter actor for a while. And you know how much I learned being a waiter? The amount of things I learned being a waiter that translate into what I do now. You think about that. You have to prioritize clients coming. Like we were right beside the hockey arena. The Leafs would come in and I'd have people wanting to get in and get out, right? So you have to look across from them and go, okay, that cute couple over there, they don't need me. They're being cute with each other. Get them the bread and water, get that done. But that business person who's in all the time and that they are on you, even though you should see the couple first because they are the next person to see, you got to prioritize what, is most important. And that goes to as well, like, is it the best time to move across the country? Is it the best time to do this? It's like going back to the list thing I said. And sometimes you can't control that. I did control the surgery to a certain extent. I said, the baby has to come first and then we're getting the surgery done. It was funny. I was in a hospital bed. I was on the side in pain. And when the nurse came in to see if my wife was all right, I thought she was talking to me. And I said, oh, I could have a little bit of water. It was the most embarrassing moment.
Oh, wife, labor, all that. But I'm
Lots of giving birth. But prioritizing if you can do that, do that. Don't put everything on yourself at once, because that's not going to help anybody.
It's just tough because we all want it all done now, right? We're not so great with patience a lot of times either, right? Because you have all these ideas, the fear of missing out, like you were talking about before, and we have this compulsion to do it and to have it be done ideally yesterday. And so mitigating that and priorities and giving ourselves a freaking break once in a while so we don't end up in the hospital. It's hard for anybody to manage in general. So how have you, I know you talked about meditation a little bit beforehand. How has that, I talk about meditation quite a bit. How has that really made a difference for you?
A lot of times things are happening where I'm half French Canadian and I'm half Irish, so I'm a pretty reactive person. And so, my gut's done me well. At times, it's not the best thing when you're married, when you have kids. You don't want to bring that emotion out, right? And it gets me to go and sort of see the strings behind what's happening and go, hey, you know what? Can feel myself I'm getting upset. I can feel it welling up in me, and I want to get upset now. And I'm going, oh, I'm upset. Okay, let's try breathing this out a little bit, or I'm going to go for a walk. I'm not perfect at it, but the longer I do it, I've gotten better. There's this great app called 10% Happier.
Ooh.
It's with an ABC correspondent, Dan Harris. He had a sort of a panic attack during doing the nightly news, and it got him.
I saw that. That video, right?
It's a really great app. It's a great way. He has this thing called 1 minute counts. Everybody feels like they have to get in there and stop thinking. That's not what it's about. It's about going, okay, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to follow my breathing. Then eventually you're like, oh, my list. I have to go back to my list. I have to add. I come up with so many great ideas while I'm meditating. And so I have to go back to my list. And instead of going, okay, I have a thought, go back to the breath. And it's, for me, I think of it when I used to go to the gym and go, okay, that's an arm curl. I curled it's 1 rep. I'm going to come back to the breath. Another thought came on board, and instead of me getting upset, which I used to do, he's like, okay, I'm going to come back to the breath, another rep. And eventually you start getting better at this. Like, your brain gets better at it. And people say, my mom says to me, she goes, I just can't do meditation. I'm like, I couldn't surf the first time until they took a lesson. I took a lesson. I learned how to surf. I used to be a tennis pro. Let me tell you, if I get you out there for 5 minutes, I'll give you 3 tips. I can guarantee you're going to be hitting the ball back, and I can guarantee it.
See, okay, this is why I have to bring this up, because we just had a retreat with one of my mastermind groups, and you can tell we talk about meditation, and I have a muse, like biofeedback. I have crazy things. I show my meditation bench. You can tell the people that are like, okay, she's crazy, right? Which makes sense. But it's the evolutionary process of that. So I love hearing from other people to go, oh, I never really was I wasn't a meditation person either. But it's scientifically proven, right? Mm-hmm. And we're learning so much more about that. And I really think just the stress side of things for business owners, they need to mitigate that, because if they can't, that's when the stress response just keeps going up and up and up. And that's what causes so many more issues. And so it's hard to try and get somebody who is so resistant to be open to just testing. But like you said, it's like a muscle. Please, people, please listen to him and practice.
Yeah. And one thing to add to that, Jaime, is like, with my business, when I used to be a sole entrepreneur with the sports academies, it used to be like, okay, am I going to make payroll this month? Am I going to make payroll? And then I get in this loop in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make payroll. I'm going to get payroll. And then with the meditation, you're like, okay, I've got this loop in my head going on. Is this helping me whatsoever? Is me saying this 10,000 times? Write down on a piece of paper. Let's do a meditation. Let's get that out of there. And then it's going to keep popping back, but it's going to be less frequent. Me thinking about the fact that, is payroll going to happen? Either say to yourself, I'm going to call my bank person, get that line of credit extended, or I'm going to not pay myself this month, or whatever the heck that was when I was starting my business out. You telling yourself and freaking yourself out and amping yourself out more and stressing yourself out, because being an entrepreneur, man, it's like being on that high wire by yourself. Who else? My wife doesn't know my day to day. Like, she's great to bounce things off of. She's so intelligent, brings so much to the table, and I'm a better entrepreneur for that. but she doesn't know the minutia of what I go through, right? My employees, they get paid every month no matter what. They do not know the minutia of what's going on. Only you do, right? As a sole entrepreneur. But with that, it can get you out of your head a little bit, and my board of advisors can help walk me through those problems, right?
And it makes all the difference in the world on how you feel, and it depends on what you think. And most of the stuff is habitual that we don't even realize, and it's just, but you have way more control than we give ourselves credit. We just assume that it's like a mishmash in there, right? And don't get me wrong, it is.
And you have those things that play on loops, like, those things where you keep, even for myself, like if you write down a piece of paper, the things I've had that are successes, yes, they're great successes. Does it not mean every morning I get up going, hey, I'm the underdog and I want to be the best, and oh, can I be the best? And can I do this? Can I bring this to however many multi-million dollars I want to do? Like, there's that little thing in my head that still talks to me on certain days or every day for a week in a row, and it's that loop thing, and you just have to go, no, that guy, I'm not listening to him. I'm gonna maybe, I do affirmations as well. With this new job, I have to drive a little bit more, and I picked 5 things. Some have to do with my health, some have to do with my business, things like that. And I don't know, you keep telling yourself stuff. Like, I've always told myself I'm a lucky person. I don't care. I had that surgery, and I said to myself, you know what? I have all these people who came to visit me. I live in a country where this got paid for. My wife has really great benefits. This got paid for. I mean, I got out of surgery quicker than I thought I would be. I'm like, if you say you're lucky, let me tell you, you're going to find the things in your life that you're lucky about. It's almost like when you get a car, a silver RAV4, let's say, or a blue Porsche. How many of those are you going to see in a day?
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Tell yourself you're lucky. You're going to see why you're lucky every single day.
Have you ever seen there's a Darren Brown video about luck? And it is, do you know who Darren Brown is?
Oh yeah.
Okay. He's amazing. He has one on luck. You have to watch it. Because it's the people that think they are lucky versus the people that think they are unlucky. And they literally will put money in front of the people that think they're unlucky, and they won't see it. They had to I won't tell you that, but I was like, this is just so perfectly true that when you're not paying attention, like I said at the very beginning before we started recording, you're like, I prepared. And I was like, well, luck favors the prepared mind, right? One of my favorite quotes. And it's like you just paying more attention and really making sure that you understand that luck comes to you. And if I pay attention to that, it's way better than paying attention to the other crap that goes on in our head. Why would you not want to be happier? It's so silly.
And you're going to come up with so many great ideas if you tell yourself every morning that you're lucky. Like, we're above ground. We were born in this country. Like, well, you in the United States.
My country, your country.
great place with great people around us. We're pretty darn lucky, and I think reminding ourselves of that every day is important. You look at what's happening down in Houston. I mean, I'm sure those people are thanking themselves like, hey, my house is still standing, all right, my family's okay. And, we have a lot to be lucky for. And I think that we have to remind ourselves of that. And there's going to be those days, like there were days in that hospital where I didn't feel like, I'm saying this now, and there were certain days where I was not feeling lucky, and I called somebody, or I, cried it out, but you get through that, you just push through that, and then you move on to, okay, you know what, I am lucky,
Thank you for being so real on this. I know we're actually going over them when we normally do, because this stuff is so important, but it seems so intangible, quote unquote. And yet, this is some of the threads that I see of the people that are successful, is because it is a personal growth thing for sure. As you start growing, and a business is one of the best ways that we can grow as humans, because we're faced with a whole bunch of crap that you kind of have to, right? And so seeing what you actually do, and you actually being very vulnerable about, and then I cried. Okay, it's fine, people. People do that, and you feel better afterwards. Who knew?
Luckily, I get paid to cry on TV and stuff. I don't get paid in a hospital bed, but it is what it is.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Tap into the pain. All right, great. Oh man. So I know we have to start wrapping up, unfortunately, and we should have you back on the show. And I know tonight you have like 1,000 people in a film festival and craziness. So thank you so much for making time in your schedule also. But
you get on a plane. I'd love to have you out as one of my guests.
That's what I said. I was like, I'll just cancel all the rest of the interviews today. I'm flying to Toronto. If I can meet Ryan Reynolds, wait, your brother or Deadpool? No.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right. We were chatting a little bit too much beforehand. Yeah. So you're really good at this. So getting me off topic, man. Okay. So the last question that I always ask is, what's one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of 1 million?
I think really setting goals for yourself, and setting the goal is important. Putting those steps behind the goal, having that, and knowing where you're going to go that week, because life can get you off course really easily. You have to write down, what do I want to accomplish by the end of the week, and then work backwards from that. And from week to week, that's going to change. For me, some days it's creating this new series. Some days, like, what do I want to move forward most importantly? Put those steps behind that. Those steps will change along the way. But if you don't have a map to where you're going, what direction are you going in, right?
Lost in the woods.
And stay positive. Like, know that, like, man, anybody could. I moved to Toronto with like $300 in my pocket.
See, everybody's like, I want to be like you. I want to do crazy film stuff and serial entrepreneur and do this and do. So thank you for inspiring everyone and letting them know tangible things to actually do this. And I love your little template that you have on that. And everybody go check out. I'm going to go check out 10% Happier, because usually
I'm going to send you a link to the Eisenhower Matrix. It's a great thing.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know actually you said they could follow you on Twitter and tell us more about where we can find more about you.
Shawn, SHAWN _ Reynolds, REYNOLDS. Send me a hello. I love to chat with people, and come to the table. Like I said before, come to the table with something interesting. We can start a conversation.
Oh, that's a challenge. I love it. And then forward it to me, because I want to see what you come up with. You guys better be smart. We have to show him how smart my audience is. Okay, come up with something interesting. And a big fan of yours,
by the way, Jaime. I've been watching you for a long while, and the people you bring on. I'm out here, and obviously I have a certain success, and I'm writing stuff down with some of the people that you have on. Like, I know you recently had the gentleman who had lost his eyesight, who I'm such a big fan of. He makes me, with my Crohn's, I was just like, we all have our challenges.
Yes. And then you're like, I am so lucky. And then he thinks he's so lucky. And you're like, okay, man, people.
He inspired me. I was like, this guy, I want him to be one of the guys on my advisory group, because he blew me away.
We'll have to connect you guys, and all will be well in the world. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. I so appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic night tonight too.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Would you consider yourself a high-level entrepreneur? Now, most likely, if you're listening to this, you definitely are. And what I've heard over and over and over again is it's hard to find like-minded people that are like that too. Again, I'm from Maine, so I totally understand how difficult it can be. Thank goodness I have an amazing online community, so I know tons of them. And that is exactly why we are starting this brand new mastermind group with high-level, like-minded entrepreneurs, the ones that you can go alongside with, that will help move you to the next level, let alone with kick butt coaching from me, because I like to slap you around, both on focus and on strategy. So if you're looking to double or triple this year, which I know most of you are, I want you to go ahead and apply and see if it's a good fit for you. I will totally tell you if it's not, and if I wouldn't do it if I were you. But go to eventualmillionaire.com/apply. We are looking for amazing, like-minded entrepreneurs. My previous mastermind members have told me it is life-changing. So take the time today, fill out the very quick application, and we'll see if it's a fit. Take care.